At exactly 6:47 p.m., the rain came down like shattered glass. Travis had just tucked his daughter into bed when a frantic knock rattled his front door. Standing there was a woman, soaked to the bone, barefoot, shivering and silent, with blood on her lip and fear in her eyes. She didn't ask for help. She didn't need to. Something in her expression said everything. Travis didn't know her name, but he let her in. And that one choice would change every part of his life forever. The door creaked open slowly. Travis's hand was still trembling on the knob, heart thudding from the jarring knock that had snapped him out of his late-night routine. He had just kissed 7-year-old Lily goodnight, the glow-in-the-dark stars on her ceiling flickering softly as her tiny frame burrowed into her dinosaur sheets. Now, this... She stood there like something out of a dream gone wrong. Brown hair plastered to her cheeks, her clothes soaked and clinging like she'd been pulled out of a river. She wore nothing but a pair of old jeans and a flannel shirt, both torn, as if she'd climbed through a fence or escaped something worse. No shoes, no bag, just a folded-up piece of paper in her palm, and bruises. "Jesus," Travis whispered. The woman didn't speak. She didn't cry, she didn't plead, but her jaw trembled, her lower lip split with a darkened bruise. One eye was swollen. Her hands, clutching the paper, were scraped, raw and shaking. Travis's gaze dropped to the paper. It had his address scribbled in shaky blue pen. How do you know where I live?" he asked, voice low, cautious but not unkind. Still, no answer, just a deep inhale. Her chest rose sharply like it was hard to breathe. She tried to speak. Nothing came out. He should have shut the door. That would have been the safe choice, the logical one. But instead, he stepped aside. "Come in," he murmured. Her feet left wet prints across the hardwood floor. Travis grabbed a blanket from the coat rack, wrapped it around her shoulders, and watched her eyes flutter with a kind of stunned gratitude. He shut the door behind her, locked it. "Sit. I'll get you something hot. You look like you've been through hell," he said, already moving toward the kitchen. The woman sat stiffly on the edge of the couch. She didn't say a word. She didn't ask questions. Just stared blankly ahead, as if her mind wasn't in the room at all. Travis poured a mug of tea. He didn't even know if she liked tea. When he returned, she hadn't moved. But her hands slowly reached for the mug. They shook so much he had to help her lift it. "Can I ask your name?" Her mouth parted. "Riley," she croaked, voice thin and dry. That was all. Riley. No last name, no explanation, just that one fragile syllable. Lily wandered into the room the next morning, rubbing her eyes, bunny slippers dragging on the floor. She blinked when she saw the stranger asleep on the couch. "Daddy, who's that?" Travis crouched beside her, kept his voice gentle. "She's someone who needed help. We're being kind, remember?" Lily nodded slowly, her sleepy gaze curious. Riley stirred moments later, confused, embarrassed. She tried to stand fast, but winced. Her knee buckled and Travis caught her elbow just in time. "You're safe here," he said firmly. "No one's coming for you, not here." She looked up at him like she didn't quite believe that. Like maybe she had heard that before and been proven wrong. He didn't push her, didn't ask where she came from, what had happened to her. He just handed her a clean towel and said she could use the bathroom down the hall. Travis didn't know then that Riley had run barefoot for 6 miles in the cold to find him, that she had only one name, his name, and a torn paper she'd clutched like salvation. He didn't know that the man who put those bruises on her face was a monster wearing a badge, or that letting her inside would set off a chain of events that would expose an entire town's hidden rot and save not just Riley, but himself too. For the next 2 days, Riley barely spoke. She stayed quiet, moved quietly, ate only what was given, and always looked over her shoulder, even inside the locked house. She flinched when Lily knocked over a cup. She jumped when the mailman slammed his van door out front. Her hands trembled when the heater clicked on, but the worst wasn't what she did. It was what she wouldn't say. Travis didn't push. He knew pain when he saw it, and Riley didn't just look like she had been hurt, she looked like she had been silenced. Still, kindness had a way of softening silence. It started with Lily. The little girl had taken to Riley like a duck to water. She'd pad over in the mornings with a blanket in hand and curl up beside her on the couch. She offered her stuffed animals, drew pictures with her name in big scribbly letters, and asked Riley to color with her. No questions, just trust. That broke something in Riley. On the third night, Travis came downstairs to see Riley crying. Not loud, not hysterical, just silent. Tears. Lily had fallen asleep on her lap. Riley looked up at him, as if asking permission to fall apart. He sat beside her. Not too close. Just enough. "You don't have to tell me anything," he said. "But if you ever want to—" Her hands tightened around Lily's blanket. "I had nowhere to go," she whispered. "He took everything, my wallet, my phone, my car." Travis didn't interrupt. "I was a waitress, nothing fancy, lived in a studio near Westbrook. 3 weeks ago I started dating a guy, Jake. He was sweet at first, funny. Then one night, he got angry at some guy who looked at me, hit the wall, scared me. But then he said sorry and brought flowers and I—" Her voice cracked. She wiped her eyes angrily. "The next week he moved in without asking, quit his job, said I'd take care of him like a good woman. I didn't even see it happening. I was just drowning in it." Travis said nothing. "Just listened. I tried to break it off. He hit me, said he'd tell everyone I hit him, and I believed he'd do it. He had photos. He twisted things. I didn't fight back. I couldn't. He broke my rib last week." Travis clenched his fists. "Last night," Riley whispered, "I waited for him to pass out. Took $100 he'd stashed in the kitchen. Drawer. Ran out with nothing but the shirt on my back and a piece of paper your daughter drew for me 2 weeks ago." Travis blinked. "Lily? What?" Riley pulled the wrinkled paper from her pocket. It was torn, faded, but you could still make out the drawing, a house, a smiley face, a sun, and scribbled underneath in crayon, "My daddy says this is the safest house in the world." Travis covered his mouth with one hand. "I didn't know where else to go," she said, tears falling again. "I didn't think I'd make it. I thought I'd freeze in that field, but I remembered the address and I prayed your door would open." Travis stood up. He didn't say much. He just walked to the cabinet, pulled out the spare key from the drawer, placed it in her palm and said, "You don't ever have to knock again." She stared at the key and sobbed. The next morning, Travis made pancakes. It was the first time Riley smiled. It was small. Barely there, but real. She helped Lily with homework, braided her hair before school, and insisted on doing the dishes even though her wrist was still bruised. Travis watched her carefully, how she folded towels, lined the edge of the sink with precision, kept checking locks on doors. It wasn't just survival, it was someone who had been broken and was trying desperately to hold her pieces together. That night, as he put Lily to bed, his daughter asked, "Daddy, is Riley gonna be okay?" "I think she's trying to be," he said softly. "Good," Lily whispered. "She's brave." Travis kissed her forehead. He didn't know it yet, but Riley's quiet courage was about to bring more than just healing to this house. Because Jake, the man who did this to her, he had already tracked her down, and he wasn't coming to take her back. He was coming to destroy whatever happiness she dared to rebuild. 3 days passed. Riley laughed softly for the first time in what felt like years. It happened in the kitchen. Travis had burned toast again. The smoke alarm wailed, and Lily shouted, "Dad, you're under arrest for breakfast crimes," while holding up a wooden spoon like a baton. Riley had doubled over, clutching her side, wheezing through giggles. That sound, real, raw joy, filled the house like morning light. And for a moment, Travis believed they were healing. But peace never lasts long when evil doesn't sleep. That night at 2:18 a.m., Travis jolted awake to the sound of the gate latch snapping shut. He reached for the bat under his bed. Downstairs, the porch light flickered. Riley was already sitting up on the couch, eyes wide, body stiff. Her lips moved soundlessly, counting. Seconds, her face went pale. She recognized the rhythm of the knock. 3 slow taps, then silence, then one hard pound. Travis moved past her carefully, raised a finger to his lips. She grabbed his arm. "Don't open it," she whispered, breath shaky. "Please." "He knocks like that always. He thinks it's funny, says it's like a dog scratching at a door before it bites." Travis's chest tightened. He pulled out his phone, started dialing 911, but stopped. He didn't have proof it was Jake. "Not yet," then came the voice, muffled through the door, but loud enough to chill the blood. "Riley, baby, you in there? You left some of your things in my trunk." "I thought I'd bring 'em over." The porch creaked. "I know you're in there, sweetheart. You think you can hide behind some single daddy's front door? You think that's going to stop me?" He laughed, a low, horrible laugh. Riley's knees buckled. She sank to the floor, hugging herself, teeth clenched. Travis had heard enough. He flung the door open. Jake stood there in a sheriff's deputy jacket, leaned casually against the porch post like it was his own house. "Travis Hayes, right?" he said, flashing a badge. "You've got someone in there who doesn't belong here." Travis didn't blink. "You're trespassing. It's 2 a.m. Jake stepped forward. "She stole from me. She ran from you." Jake's smile faded. His eyes went cold. "I'll be back," he said. "And next time, I won't knock." He turned, walked to a black SUV, and peeled off into the night. Travis stood frozen in the doorway, fists clenched. He knew what he had just seen. That badge wasn't real, and that man wasn't just a threat. He was hunting. The next day, Travis took Riley and Lily to the sheriff's office in a neighboring town. Riley gave a statement, showed her bruises, the hospital x-ray she had from 2 weeks earlier, and even a voicemail Jake had left threatening her. She broke down halfway through, but didn't stop. The local sheriff, a gruff man named Don Whitmore, listened quietly. He sighed deeply when the statement ended. "That badge," he flashed. "It's fake," Whitmore said. "Jake Colburn was kicked out of law enforcement training last year, failed a psych eval. He's been impersonating ever since. We've had suspicions, but no one pressed charges. They were scared." "I'm not scared anymore," Riley whispered, voice shaking. "I want him arrested." Whitmore nodded. "We'll do our job, but it won't happen overnight. He's smart, slippery. We'll need backup from the state. You stay put. You stay safe." They drove home in silence. That night, Travis installed a second lock, put a wooden bar against the back door, and slept downstairs with a hammer on his chest. Riley cried herself to sleep again, but this time, in the spare bedroom. She was no longer a guest. She was family now. The next day, Travis dropped Lily at school and came home to find Riley on the porch. She was holding a picture frame, a broken one. Inside it was a photo of her as a child, smiling, missing 2 teeth, hair in pigtails. A single line was written in faded ink on the bottom. "Don't forget who you are." Travis sat beside her. "I used to be brave," she said, almost like she was apologizing. "I used to be a fighter." "You still are," she shook her head. "No, I'm just surviving." "You know what I see when I look at you," he said gently. "I see someone who walked away from hell barefoot. Someone who carried nothing but her name and still refused to crawl." Her eyes filled with tears. "And I see someone who's going to fight back," he added, "with help this time." She didn't answer, but for the first time, she didn't look like she doubted it. The letter came 2 days later. No return address. Just a plain white envelope taped to the inside of the screen door. Travis opened it with caution. Riley stood behind him, holding her breath. Inside, a photo. It was her, taken from a distance, carrying groceries with Lily, and scrawled across the bottom in thick black marker, "Run all you want, I always find you." Riley's knees gave out. She slid down the wall, hand over her mouth. Travis didn't hesitate. He called Sheriff Whitmore. A deputy arrived within 20 minutes, logged the threat, and started the process for a restraining order. But it wasn't enough. Jake wasn't. Playing by the law, and the fear he instilled wasn't just in Riley anymore. It had seeped into Lily's drawings, into Travis's hands as he worked on engines at the shop, flinching at every unfamiliar truck, into the way Riley double-checked locks 3 times each night. That night, Travis sat at the kitchen table while Riley dried dishes. "You know," he said, "I used to think kindness was just something you did because it was polite. But I've seen what real kindness is." She looked at him, curious. "It's doing the hard thing, the dangerous thing, the right thing, even when you're scared out of your mind." Riley set down the plate slowly. "Then I think I'm ready," she whispered. "For what?" "To stop being scared." The next morning, Riley walked into the courthouse by herself. She filed a full protection order, gave a formal deposition with the DA's office, testified to every bruise, every controlling word, every degrading threat Jake had whispered into her life for months. Travis waited outside for 3 hours, pacing. When she came out, her hands were trembling, but her shoulders were straighter. "I told them everything," she said, voice raw. "Even the stuff I was ashamed of. Even the stuff I never wanted anyone to know." "You didn't have to," Travis said. "Yes, I did," she exhaled shakily. "If I want to be free, really free, I have to stop letting him own even 1 inch of my silence." Travis didn't say a word. He just wrapped his arms around her, and for the first time, Riley hugged back with full strength. That same night, Lily's school hosted a Family Heroes night. Kids were asked to bring someone they considered a hero. Most came with firefighters, nurses, older siblings in uniform. Lily brought Riley. She stood in front of her classmates, pink cheeks glowing, and said clearly, "This is Riley, she's my hero." Because even when she was really scared, she didn't run away from helping people, and she always makes me feel safe. Riley cried through the whole thing, but she didn't hide. She stood proud, she stood tall, and Jake, he watched the whole thing. From the parking lot, he never went inside. He just stared, waiting, planning. That night, Travis found the back fence slashed open. Inside the mailbox was another note. This one was worse, cruder, explicit, a threat. He brought it to Whitmore himself. The sheriff went still. "We've been tracking him. He's getting reckless," Whitmore said. "We'll get him, Travis, I promise. But until we do, don't let her out of your sight." Travis didn't sleep that night. Neither did Riley. They sat at the kitchen table, drinking tea, silence between them, until Riley finally whispered, "I don't want to run again. Then we won't." She looked him in the eyes. "He'll try to hurt you. Hurt Lily." "Let him try," Travis said, jaw tight. "I've lived through losing people before. I'm not letting fear take anything else from me." She reached for his hand. He held it like he'd been waiting his whole life to. The next morning, they were supposed to go to the farmer's market. Instead, Riley found her photo pinned to the front tire of Travis's truck, stabbed through the eye with a knife, and across the hood in white paint. "She's mine." Travis didn't call the police. He walked straight back into the house, locked every door, and told Riley, "It ends today." It happened on a Sunday. The sky was grey, the wind low and still, like the world was holding its breath. Lily was at a sleepover across town. Riley had just brewed coffee. Travis stood at the window, hand resting on the curtain's edge. He hadn't said much since finding the knife in his truck, but his silence wasn't fear. It was fury, simmering under the surface. Then came the sound, gravel crunching. Riley's hand froze over her mug. Travis turned to her slowly. They both knew. Travis moved to the coat closet, grabbed the bat. Riley didn't stop him this time. Instead, she opened the kitchen drawer and quietly pulled out her phone. The knock was hard. 3 times. Then silence. Travis opened the door. Jake stood there, cocky and smug, a pistol tucked in his waistband. He didn't try to hide it this time. "Afternoon," Jake drawled, stepping over the threshold. "No cops around this time, huh?" Riley stepped into view. He paused. She wasn't shaking. She wasn't crying. She wasn't even backing away. "Jake," she said, her voice like steel wrapped in silk. "You need to leave." Jake tilted his head, grinning. "You forget who you're talking to." "I didn't forget," she said. "I chose to stop obeying." He laughed, loud and mocking. "You think you can talk back now, hiding behind some grease monkey and a kid?" "No," she said calmly. "Not hiding, not anymore." Jake reached for his waistband. That's when Travis stepped between them, bat raised. "Try it," he said coldly. "I dare you." Jake smirked. "You'll go to jail for assaulting me." "No," Riley said behind Travis, holding up her phone. "You'll go to prison for this." She hit play, Jake's voice. Clear, threatening, recorded 2 nights ago. On speakerphone while he ranted, admitting to impersonating law enforcement, to the beatings, to the stalkings, even to killing her cat, just to prove a point. Jake's grin slipped. Fast. "You recorded me? I'm done being scared of you," she said. "Done running, done being your puppet. You don't own me, you never did." Sirens wailed in the distance. Jake spun toward the door, but 3 patrol cars had already boxed in his truck, guns drawn, yelling. He ran toward the back fence, where he had slashed it before. Travis was faster. He tackled him to the ground, pinned him. Jake screamed like a cornered animal, but it didn't matter anymore. By the time Sheriff Whitmore arrived, Jake was cuffed, red-faced, and furious. "You think this is over, you bitch?" he spat at Riley, but she didn't flinch. She stepped closer, looked him dead in the eye and said, "You're right, it is over, just not the way you hoped." 2 weeks later, Jake was behind bars without bail, multiple charges, stalking, impersonating an officer, felony harassment, assault. Riley sat on the porch swing, sipping lemonade while Lily braided her hair. The house was quieter now, not with fear, with peace. Whitmore called to say the case would be fast-tracked. A local women's group had even offered Riley a job, helping other survivors tell their stories. Travis brought out a second chair, sat beside her. "You really staying?" he asked. She looked out at the sunset. "I think I am." "Good," he said, "because Lily refuses to eat anyone else's pancakes." They laughed, softly. She reached for his hand. This time she didn't tremble. "I was broken when I got here," she said. "You weren't broken," Travis whispered. "You were buried," and together they watched as her first real smile stretched across her face, wide and fearless. Riley stood on stage in a modest hall, mic in hand, speaking to 50 women. "I'm not going to pretend I was brave from the start. I wasn't. I was afraid. I hid. I made excuses. I stayed. But then someone opened a door. Just one door. One act of kindness. And that gave me the courage to believe maybe I was worth saving." She smiled through tears. "So to anyone listening, just remember, it only takes one person to change everything. For me, it was a little girl who believed her house was the safest place in the world." Applause erupted. In the back of the hall, Travis stood beside Lily, beaming with pride. And Riley finally walked off that stage not as a victim, but as a survivor, a protector, a voice for the silenced. And to the man who once told her she'd never be anything without him, she never once said his name again, because it no longer mattered. She had found her name again, and it was hers.